Hey, health coaches. So maybe like me, you're kind of an old school health and fitness oriented practitioner. I know I certainly am. I've been a meathead for a long time, and I went to nutrition school and I learned a lot of different stuff, but I really zeroed in on stuff like macros and calories and simple stuff. And I've been devouring research papers and meta-analyses and articles and getting into the weeds on the science. But deep down inside, there's this ancient wisdom, and it's hard to ignore. It's hard to, in fact, I think it's irresponsible to ignore it. And so I mention that because we're going to explore it in this conversation with Nidhi Pandya, who is a NAMA-certified advanced Ayurvedic practitioner, best-selling author of the book Your Body Already Knows, women's health coach and speaker. Her mission is to blend Ayurveda with modern wellness conversations. So whatever you do or don't know about Ayurveda, whatever your preconceived notions are about Ayurveda, I went in with many of my own. And this conversation helped to illuminate the science of life, which is the definition of Ayurveda. We talk about nutrition from an Ayurvedic lens, which I think is a topic that is pertinent for many of us. So we really kept the conversation centered around the nutrition piece, food, how the food behaves in the body. It's fascinating, and I can't wait for you to listen to it. So please enjoy this conversation with Nidhi Pandya. Hi, I'm Erin Power. I'm a health coach, a health coaching educator and mentor, and your host of Health Coach Radio. This podcast delves into the art, science, and business of health coaching. Whether you're aspiring to land a coaching dream job or to embark on your own entrepreneurial adventure, we cover it all. Our mission is to help you grow your career, elevate your income, change the lives of the clients who need your help, and leave a lasting mark in this rapidly growing field. It's time for health coaches to make an impact. It's time for Health Coach Radio. All right, I'm excited to learn from you, and I know our audience is, Nidhi, but let's start with the place where podcasts always start, which is your kind of origin story, in a manner of speaking. What led you to first discover Ayurveda and decide to make it your life's work?
Yeah. Erin, I was born into it because my grandfather is an Ayurvedic healer, and I grew up in a family of 14 people, so large joint family back in Mumbai, India. Now, Mumbai is like the New York of India. It's like a very urban city. So it was a real experience growing up in an urban city with a man who understood this science of life that, Ayurveda is the science of life. That's what it is. And I felt like I was immersed into Ayurveda since birth. A lot of Ayurveda, before I got my formal education and I went back and I studied from the ancient texts, actually happened at home because I learned Ayurveda in my everyday life. For example, if I asked for, let's say, cheese at dinner, the response I would inevitably get would be like, oh, do you want to eat it for lunch tomorrow morning? You might be able to digest it better. Now, as a young girl, I'm learning all of these things. I'm learning that, cheese must be heavy to digest, and lunch may be a better time to digest. And dinner, you probably don't digest that well. So a lot of what I learned, right? Like to me, this way of living is the only way I know how to live. But also living with 14 people and seeing each person respond differently to the same stimulus. You could consume the same food, but have a different reaction. And in today's day and age, you could just, we're confused. We're like, why am I feeling so sick? But when you grow up in an Ayurvedic family where people understand bio-individuality, we're already like, this is just the language we speak in. They're like, oh, it was too spicy for your hot body. Or like, oh my God, are you sure you're going to consume something cold because it's going to slow you down even further? So you learn a lot through immersion. Like it becomes your first language. And being a sensitive child I always asked the question, what makes people sick and what makes people tick? And I just felt like my mind was always open to learning about that. So consciously, subconsciously. And it was inevitable that when I, got older, actually, after I became an adult, because I took Ayurveda for granted, to be honest with you. And then I moved to the West when I was in my early 20s, about like 20 years plus ago. And at that point, I realized that, oh my God, like the West is so scared of health and they don't know how to live. And I was like, if I ever, right? Because you step into adulthood and you're suddenly like thinking about your future and whether you're going to have kids one day. And I was like, I cannot be in this world devoid of Ayurveda if I'm going to live in the West. So my choice, I didn't have a choice, but to actually bring it to the West. I'm like, if they can't do this, I have to do this. So my kids grew up in a world where Ayurveda exists.
Oh, nice.
And it was as naive as that when it started. And then Ayurveda just pulls you in. It just calls you. You just have, once you get sucked in, at that point, this is 20 years ago, it was not even a career choice. Like people were like, what? Are you Veda? What is that? Right. And at that point, I was like, just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if people get it, they don't get it. Maybe people will never get it. And that's fine. But this is my life's work and I got to continue doing it.
Oh, that's so interesting. I kind of want to push a little bit here because I have a suspicion that quite a few listeners here either don't know anything about it or maybe don't believe in it. I'm just curious, like, what would detractors of Ayurveda, what do people who push back against it say about it that you think is worth, debunking early on or clarifying early on?
That people who are skeptical of Ayurveda, for them is
Yeah.
so people are skeptical of Ayurveda because we have just become a very like, unless you can prove it to me, I don't believe it. Unless you can prove it to me in a lab, I don't believe it. But I just think it's a little sad and it's a little ridiculous. And I'll tell you why that is the case. Because our senses are limited in their own capacity. Our cognition is limited. I mean, there are animals who can hear more than us, who can see more than us, who can sense more than us. And we don't even know, like cognitive power is limited, right? At the same time, we see animals in the forest, like the deer knows it's an herbivore. It wakes up every morning without an alarm clock, and it's not going to go and eat meat. It's going to go and graze on the same patch of grass if nothing else is available. And the tiger won't say, oh, prove it to me that I'm nocturnal. The tiger knows it's nocturnal. It doesn't need proof or a study. And there are bruised animals that actually can identify sulfur-rich soil. Like an animal knows this is sulfur-rich soil. And, I'm just going to roll my body. I have a bruise. I'm going to heal with this. And nursing mammals are going to pick galactagogue foods for them. They may give up their favorite foods that they're used to eating when they're not nursing, but eat nursing foods. These foods, they know their mating seasons. Now, imagine if this was a human being, right? We'd be like, I'm bruised, but I got to take this soil into a laboratory and do these tests and do all these clinical trials. And then I'm going to go. And by the time, forget it. It's like you're like not even alive anymore by the time that happens, right? So like the understanding that, listen, as a species on this planet, even worms know they have to dig their holes. This is how they live. To have to take it back to the lab to prove the basics is something that I find ridiculous. When it comes to pharmaceuticals and drugs, it's very important that we take them to the laboratories, we do the clinical trials, and we prove it like that. But these are simple, logical ideas. And I want to say one more thing, Erin. A lot of these current trends, whether it's adaptogens, whether it's oil pulling, whether it's tongue scraping, things that your doctors will ask you to do today, antioxidants, all of them have their origins in Ayurveda. In fact, all the adaptogens, the known adaptogens today, come from mostly Ayurveda and some from traditional Chinese medicine. And if you go back to the scriptures, I study directly from the ancient texts. And you look at, for example, what ashwagandha does, right? Let's just say, for example, look at what ashwagandha does. And you'll say, oh, this is what it does for your brain, this is what it does for your nervous system, and this is what it does for your reproductive system. And it's not code language. It's very specific. It's more specific than a research paper. And then if you look at modern research, and it will say, oh, ashwagandha can support your nervous system in this way. It can reduce cortisol, and it's an adaptogen, and it can increase your testosterone levels. It's exactly what Ayurveda says. Now, if every time science is coming to what Ayurveda said 5,000 years ago, to me, that itself is credibility, and it's and I'm like, it's okay. They're 5,000 years too late, but that's fine. At least, we've been around for 300,000 years, so 5,000 years is fine.
I think you nailed that answer. I'm so excited you went there. I really am. There's this ancient wisdom. And, I completely agree with you. And I'm just going to say this, and I don't care what the haters come for me, but Yes, evidence-based. We need evidence, but there's a lot of different kinds of evidence. So, you describe or define Ayurveda as the science of life. And you give us amazing examples of how other animals have figured it out somehow, have managed to figure out effortless lifelong health without needing randomized control trials. And why are we moving away from this? We're moving away from our own ancient wisdom.
Exactly, like wisdom, it's this is cellular intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
We've become so intellectual that we've left our instincts behind. And our
Yes.
intellect is our biggest problem. Actually, thinking creates a lot of issues. It's great that we're this thinking species because it allows us to live better, but we've overdone it drastically to the point that our own thinking hurts us. And now scientists are also discovering this. Overthinking creates debris in the nervous system, and then you have to sleep at night, and your lymphatic system kicks in and cleans up the debris. Debris you can see on a microscope, like your thinking thoughts, and you can see it under a microscope that it's like there's debris in your nervous system. It's mucky, it's like muddy waters, and then it's all of this. Everybody gets to work to clean that out. So we're overthinking everything and we are forgetting that evidence based. I mean, it's like saying that, oh, if I'm cold, give me evidence that a sweater is going to keep me warm. You don't
Exactly.
have evidence, like, because it's experience, and we can do a 3D physical, external body, superficial experience we can rely on. But we don't believe anymore that we have the wisdom within us. We just are looking for information and no wisdom. And Ayurveda is that science that really takes you back to that wisdom with a framework, not guesswork.
Right. So it's interesting you brought up the debris because when I was devouring your Instagram feed, which is fascinating and just highly recommended, I jotted down a few topics that I said, ooh, I'm gonna sort of rapid fire these topics at you at the end as a little fun finishing move.
Yeah.
But one of them was this brain debris. So I want to come back to this because the way you just
Yeah.
framed it up here was the overthinking. And I
Yeah.
do see this in my own clients. So just for quickest backstory ever, I work with women on weight loss. And the
Yeah.
women that I work with are my age, so they're in their 50s and have
Mhm.
been battling their bodies since they were teenagers because that culturally is what we were told to do. Anyway, I'm not going to get on my soapbox.
Mhm.
So the amount of overthinking for decades that's gone on about how much of what to eat and when and what I'm supposed to look like and I don't look good enough and all this struggle, I've said to my clients that I have no evidence of this apart from my own sort of wisdom, which is I think overthinking is holding you back from results.
Yeah.
Now you're saying there's actual physical evidence of overthinking, this debris, this nervous system brain debris that is visible under microscope that the lymphatic system has to work on while we're sleeping. Can you say more about that? I'm just so curious about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, absolutely. And like, luckily now science realizes it that there is this system and all the day's thoughts, and it happens usually between the hours of 10 and 2. If you find yourself sleeping, and the lymphatic system, which is like the glial cells and everybody, they come together to kind of flush out that debris. Some of it can happen in meditative states as well, that it can get activated and kicked in. But I think they're still like, it's such a fascinating new topic for science today that they're still investigating it further. But kind of this is what the general idea is for everyone, that, oh, this is certain, it's been proven that this is what happens. And especially, Erin, when it comes, you're working with clients on weight loss, and food is a big part of the tissue we carry on our body. And like one of the things that I say in my book as well is that when it comes to our relationship with food, your mind can't do it, because the mind is like the last place that you can use to actually change your relationship with food, has been what my experience with my clients has been, right? Because then it's a cycle of shame and guilt, and then that increases your cortisol, and then you get in stress, and then you forget everything rational, you forget all the affirmation because physically your brain gets disintegrated, it's not integrated anymore, and then you're going to go into a binge pattern. It's going to lead to more shame, and then the more you try with your brain to be like, oh, I can't do this, I should do this, I should do that, the worse I think the cycle becomes. So I personally use more like somatic methods for people to reform their relationship with food. And then also like our first relationship with food was at a mother's breast,
Yes.
fortunate ones. And, let's say for some of us is the right way to say it. And you don't overthink it. Like, it is so natural. A baby does not even have full cognitive power. and is out of the womb, has never used its mouth before. Never, never. It's
Right.
not like, oh, me studies that I should be drinking breast milk.
Right.
The baby just like opens its mouth, finds the breast, knows how to suckle. And it is such an intimate, such a relaxing, what a loving relationship. So, and it produces oxytocin for the mother, it relaxes and calms the baby. What a great experience. And we all ideally want to find our way back to that experience with food, that loving, romantic, to me, it's like the ultimate. It's the ultimate romantic relationship with your food.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm down a rabbit hole with you. So I'm gonna pull this thread a little bit. So because that what you just described with the baby latching onto the breast and the baby knows how to do it, and the act of doing that releases oxytocin in the mom, which nurtures her mothering instinct, and it's this incredible symbiotic thing that nature created, and we in our DNA, the baby knows how to do it, right? So what is the equivalent? Like, how do we what is sort of the equivalent, or what is an example you can use,
Mm.
or to help me educate and understand sort of food relationship as we mature into adulthood? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the
Yeah.
sort of adult equivalent of that, if there is such
Yeah.
a thing?
So, Erin, I encourage personally when I work with my clients, I encourage them to not even think about this, right? Like to not even find the equivalent. But this is what I do, right? I have a method called the spoon down method. So I say, don't put your brain to it. You don't have to overthink it. Forget that let me do the work for you. So it's like literally the only time I get prescriptive. And I say, every time you eat, so this is what the spoon down method works. And I feel like it's one of the most successful methods out there. So you take a bite, you put your spoon down, you place your palm on your lap. And then I don't say chew fast, I don't say chew slowly. All I say is before you swallow, you notice the texture of your food. Just notice the texture. And then before you pick up that spoon again for that next bite, you just want to make sure that your body has exhaled, like you've exhaled from your nose. So it's not an active exhale. If somebody's talking to you, they should not even be able to notice it, because most of us eat in the inhale with a diaphragm kind of completely tight and our muscles lifted up. But I actually don't even say all of this to my clients. Like, I don't want them to use their mind at all. I don't want them to get self-conscious. I don't want them to be like, I'm giving you 3 steps. But what happens is that because of that exhale, which puts you in parasympathetic, every exhale puts you in the parasympathetic. And because that happens, the body is so relaxed, they start to taste flavors. They're like, and the satiety, right? It allows your body to release its own GLP-1. So you have such high satiety. You're tasting your foods better. You're not eating for craving. And when you start eating like this, you kind of awaken your cellular intelligence. And then suddenly people are like, I'm just like recently working with a couple together. And the man's like, listen, I need my Diet Coke. And I've had Diet Coke for the last 20 years. There's no way I can't have it. And I said, okay, that's fine. But you drink it later in the day, because in the lunchtime, which is their main meal, I want you to try the spoon down method. And if you still crave it. And it's only day 5, but he's like, it's the first time in my life in 5 days that I've not consumed a Diet Coke, because he's like, by the time I'm there, I'm not even craving it.
Right.
And I'm sure part of him, he's still thinking about the Diet Coke, but it's not a strong craving. So what this kind of method does, because it increases satiety, because it creates safety in the body when you're eating. So the idea is, do I feel safe eating? And you don't have to ask your mind this, but you just want to start creating a method which builds safety around food. And when you're ready, and sometimes people need, depends on how long you've had a poor relationship with food and how deep is that poor relationship. Sometimes you need other types of therapy before you are actually comfortable trying the spoon down method. But that's only a part of the population, who's really kind of suffering tremendously.
Yeah, I love that. That's similar to how I approach eating with my clients. I do really lean on the satiety signal,
Mm.
but bringing that nervous system parasympathetic piece into it is like obvious now that you mention it. Like just a simple, complete the breath, have the exhale to sort of, send that signal to the parasympathetic half of your nervous system that we're safe and everything's fine. And so this Diet Coke fella, his craving for Diet Coke is quieter because he's tapped his satiety signal. And satiety is the enough signal from the body, right? We have enough. We have everything we need.
Yeah. And it doesn't require mind, right? So you never have to, people ask me, how much do I eat? I said, no, don't ask me how much do you eat. There's
Exactly.
no portions. You do this. That is your price, that you're going to eat like this. And people are like, I'm eating less and I'm not even feeling like I'm eating less. Like, I don't want to eat more. And people who like to even stuff themselves, trust me, there's enough people who like to eat themselves into a food coma, but they just, because their body is feeling safe, right? Like usually
Hmm.
themselves into a food coma, it's a coping mechanism. But when your body is feeling safe, you just naturally don't crave. And
Yeah.
if you eat like this for lunch, you don't crave. Like, one of my biggest principles is you eat a very small dinner. Before we had electricity, which is like 100 years ago, like not even that long. And our ancestors were not eating big fat dinners. They just weren't, you know? And so now this whole idea of this large and late dinner is just, it's a very odd idea.
Yep. I agree. I completely agree. I teach that to my clients as well. It's so interesting how the alignment here. I'm really excited. I'm very, very excited about this conversation. Hey, Erin Power here from Health Coach Radio. And I know that so many of you struggle with getting your first clients or scaling consistently. And that's why we created the Health Coach Client Blueprint. This is a proven step-by-step system designed to help health coaches like you attract and convert paying clients so you can finally build the business of your dreams. Visit primalhealthcoach.com/HCCB to learn more and enroll today. And make sure to use the code HCR100 for $100 off your enrollment. Again, that's HCR for Health Coach Radio, HCR100 for $100 off your enrollment. Make sure to act fast though, because this discount is only available for a limited time. So if you don't mind, just because you mentioned it a second ago, you mentioned the naturally produced GLP-1. How do you see tools like GLP-1 medications fitting or not fitting into an Ayurvedic approach? How is it helping or harming this sort of modern food and diet, nutrition, health construct we've got going on? Do you have a general opinion on this?
So if your obesity is going to kill you and the Ozempic is going to save you, you want to, it's a consideration.
Yeah.
Everything else, because I mean, only when you've come to a real critical survival place where you're like, oh my God, this is a do or die. And I'll tell you why, right? Forget the fact that it's a new drug, but I mean, just when I think about it logically, I am not giving my body enough raw materials to generate new cells, because the way it works with glucose and your desire to eat building foods, what in Ayurveda I call building nourishing foods, which are very important because our cells are being regenerated all the time. We lose cells and we need to build new cells. And if you don't have the right raw materials, and that's why, right, people, they have an Ozempic face and people have reproductive failure and people just, there's just so many things associated with it. It is such an anti-nature thing to do. This is how we nourish our bodies, and to be like, oh, I'm just going to make you want to not nourish yourself at all. So unless the obesity will kill you,
Yeah.
which can happen, like there are people who are just like really, really struggling. But unfortunately for most of those people, like they also have some other concerns. Usually they're diabetic, etc. And then they're not eligible. Like if they have multiple concerns and renal failures, etc., then they're not always eligible for the Ozempic or for
Right.
another GLP-1 like drug.
Yeah, I think the way I interpreted what you shared there is these medications. By the way, I tried it. I tried Ozempic to see what it feels like. Not for any weight loss outcome. I
Yeah.
just wanted to try it
Yeah.
because I am in the
No,
women's weight loss space.
yeah.
And I didn't like the way it felt from the perspective. Well, I mean, not to get into the weeds, but I didn't like the delayed gastric emptying. The slowness of my excretory system made me feel green and ill. It was not great. So I didn't really enjoy the feeling of it. But to me, it felt so catabolic.
Yeah.
I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat anything. I don't want to eat protein. I don't want to eat vegetables. I would have a cracker or maybe a handful of pretzels. So it has a catabolic, well, it is catabolic. It is an anorectic class of drugs. And I'm not here to.
That's exactly what it is. It's complete. It's a catabolic. It's just enhances your catabolism, which is very, very destructive. Our body gets catabolic when it's like in its decaying phase. It's decaying.
Yeah. So, and I don't want to make this an anti-GLP-1 rant per se, because to your point, there are some people for whom it will be a life-changing
Yeah.
thing. And I want to, as somebody who's in weight loss, I know half of my clients are going to try it. And so I need to be just open-minded to it. But
Yeah.
you mentioned this idea of the building foods,
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of those?
So Ayurveda classifies foods actually in many ways. I love the way Ayurveda looks at foods. And I'll say two things that Ayurveda does with foods, right? So one is, okay, so let's say for Ayurveda to evaluate any food, like how do we evaluate any food? The beauty of Ayurvedic science is you could have a brand new food on the planet today, and a person is able to evaluate the food. And so these are the 5 parameters on which we evaluate foods, okay? The first one is taste. But depending on the taste, you'll be able to tell what the function of the food is. And we can go over those 6 tastes because it's a quick and it's a fascinating
Could we?
conversation.
Because I'm super geeked out on this because the satiety piece, the umami flavor of protein, and how the palate is clocking every bite and doing the tabulations for you. Is that kind of what we're talking about here? Because I'm
Kind
super
of.
geeked out on that.
Kind of. Yes. I mean, it definitely aligns with the same thought, right? But like the taste will actually give you the function of the food. So if there's a brand new food and you can study its properties, you'll be fine. So basically, what are the 5 factors of evaluation, right? For traditional foods, because we have this. So first is taste, based on the so you look at the taste, then you look at the potency of food, whether it's warming or it's cooling for your body. And there are ways that we do this. And once we go down the taste, we'll be able to tell. Then the third part is we look at the post-digestive effect. So there could be a post-digestive effect, that, it's cooling first, but it can become warming after digestion. And I tell you what cooling and warming foods mean. Cooling and warming doesn't mean like cold water is cooling. But can you relate to like coconut being cooling? Like, for example, coconut, even if you had coconut, like just dry, desiccated coconut,
Yeah.
or like room temperature coconut water, that's cooling. And if you had kimchi that was refrigerated, spicy kimchi, that's still warming in your body, right? And that affects, right? Like warming foods will do certain things, and we'll talk about that. So it's basically the taste, the taste, the potency, the post-digestive effect, and thus the action, properties and action of that food. And the properties also, like, if it's heavy, it's smooth, it's oily. And like you kind of look at all of this, right? All of these figures, and there's a way you look at it like a formula, and then you can just see exactly what a certain food will do to your body once you've kind of evaluated these factors. And they're always bang on. And then what I've asked my students to do sometimes, we'll discuss these things. And then I'll ask them to make their own evaluations. And then I'll say, okay, now let's go to Mr. Google and let's look at what modern science has to say about this food and the research has to say. And it's almost always the same.
Wow.
But I'm like, when you can do this yourself, you don't need an external source. Okay, so let's talk about the 6 tastes, because 3 of those 6 tastes are building and nourishing, and 3 of them are nutrient rich, and they can be depleting. They have great use. It doesn't mean you don't use them. You kind of combine these tastes. All 6 tastes are combined. So the first taste is the sweet taste. Now, sweet doesn't mean necessarily sugar, but think rice. Think if you're chewing white rice and that's sweet. Think not the current day milk, which is completely adulterated, but think milk back in the day. If your grandparents were living in a cow, like living with a cow, and you had milk, fresh milk with good cows who are grass fed, that's sweet. So a lot of whole grains can feel sweet. Root vegetables can feel sweet. And these are the essential building block that our body needs to build new tissue, right? Because as babies, we relied upon a sweet food, milk, right? We are born as these little, like, tiny infants, and within 6 months, we become toddlers, consuming nothing else but milk. So your body knows how to use the sweet taste to produce new tissue and to produce new cells. So this is the most important. So whether it's avocados, root vegetables, certain soaked nuts, rice, coconut, milk, etc., some good fats. So that's the first taste, right? But there's a disadvantage of the first taste, and that's why you need the other taste to pair with it. And that is that too much of it is very heavy for the body. You need it to break down. If you are using any building material, you need something to break it down so you can put it to use.
Right.
And so the other tastes will support. So what are the other tastes, right? The second taste is the sour taste. And now, Erin, I just want you to think if there was somebody who was squeezing a lime or a lemon in front of you and you are thinking of those drops, what is that going to do to your mouth?
Makes
Yeah,
it water, salivary,
yeah, right.
tingles.
Well, right there, your body's getting ready for digestion. Like right in the mouth, it's saying, okay, let me get my salivary glands ready. And you start salivating and you have enzymes that are released. And the same thing happens in your gut.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why. Plus, if you were to put lemon juice on an open bruise, Erin, how would that feel? Would it sting or would it feel cooling?
On an open wound?
Yeah, like I'm sure at some point you've had like
Yeah. It burns.
it burns, right?
Yes.
So that tells you that it's warming. Versus if you put, let's just say you put rice, like you just had a bruise and you just say, I'm gonna put rice. It's gonna feel more cooling. It's gonna feel like comforting. It's gonna feel even if it's not technically healing, but it's gonna feel comforting, right? So you know that okay. So most sweet taste foods are cooling in the body, and then we have a way of looking into it, and that's more, it's more detailed and complicated. But anyways, but the sour taste, which is the second taste, is more of a warming taste. It's very stimulating. And because it is warm, it will help your body to transform, right? You cannot even charge your phone. You can never break down anything without the heat. That's how metabolism happens. Anywhere, like charging your phone, the sun, plants cannot do photosynthesis without the sun. You cook your foods on the stove, all of that, right? So the heating taste will support your digestion. So if you're consuming the sweet foods and then you have this second taste, which is the amla, which is the sour taste, then you have the third taste, which is salty. Now, again, I'm going to ask you, if you had a bruise and you were going to rub salt on it, what was going to happen?
That's also going to burn.
It's going to burn. What does salt do to ice on the roads? I mean, I live in New York City and they put
I live in Canada.
yeah. Oh, all right. Worse in a way. So they use salt to break down, right? So salt breaks down. It's hot and it's warming, and it breaks down substance that breaks down. If you take 2 pots of water to boil with the same exact amounts of water, and you put salt in one and no salt in the other, the one with the salt will boil faster.
Yeah.
Right. So you have these.
Does.
Yeah. So these three tastes, right? The sweet, the sour, and the salty, they're pleasant, they're nourishing tastes, because even though the salty and the sour will help you to break down your foods, they're still pleasing to the mind. They stimulate your appetite. You want to eat more, like I tell my clients that, listen, if it's nighttime and you don't want to eat, but if you eat even one bite of something that's salty, you're done. So like, don't sit on the dining table and be like, I'm not going to eat, but I'll try it. I'll try the food. You're done. Because if it's salty, you're going to awaken your appetite. But if you eat, like, for example, almonds, like if you eat 2-3 nuts, you're going to be fine. You're going to be like, fine, I ate those 2-3 nuts. I don't want more food. So anyway, so these three are nourishing tastes. They nourish your mind. They nourish your taste buds, and they want you to keep eating in a good manner. But they also, the salty and the sour also will support to break down the sweet.
Yes. Okay. So I know we have 3 more flavors to go through, but so are these the building foods then? These 3?
These are the building tastes.
Okay.
These are the building tastes.
And
the main food are the sweet foods, are the building foods.
Got you.
Like the sweet potatoes, the avocados, the whole grains, the rice, the good fats, milk, like dairy. Those are the building foods. These are the 3 building and nourishing tastes.
Okay. And then this is a really into the weeds question, but I'm thinking about what you just said about how a reawakening appetite. So this is like in practice, the person who after dinner, I just need a little something. And they go to the pantry and they have a little cookie, they have a little cracker, and now they're snacking all night.
Yeah.
So this is the reawakening of the appetite. Is that
salty, especially if you do something salty. So if you do something that's salty, or if you do processed sugar through a different mechanism, because of course now your body is playing, your glucose and insulin are playing this game with each other. So that sugar will also make you want to snack more for that reason. But the salty foods will make you want to snack because it reawakens your.
That makes perfect sense.
But if you have something which has like nuts, which technically are also sweet foods, but they're not processed, like it's not processed sugar, you can eat 3-4 almonds and be like, you know what, I chew them well. it's fine if I'm not eating more. But if you're sitting on the table and you're taking one bite of everything, forget it. Like you're going to eat everything
Yeah.
at that. Then the three tastes, which I find fascinating. These are nutrient-rich tastes, and they are depleting. I mean, in a way, but they're very important, right? Because when you're paired with the first three nourishing, and you have these three tastes, which can technically be slightly depleting, but they
Okay.
pair really well together because we just don't want only nourishing tastes, right? So the three tastes. The first one is bitter. So bitter greens. So like think about your digestive system. You had that sweet, you've had your rice and the salt, and there's like some lemon juice, and you're consuming it. So nourishing, it's like yummy. And then you need bitters. Now your digestive system is activated. It's like, oh my God, I'm on fire. It's like the kitchen is active. And then these bitter greens, if you imagine even eating a mouthful of kale, it's going to dry your mouth or mouth any bitter greens. So the role of these bitter foods is to actually settle all those digestive juices that were hot and boiling in the system. It's like if they open the vent, And we know that bitter greens, like they actually detox the liver for the same reason, whether it's fatty liver, or the liver is too heavy. So that's why you do greens. But that's what greens do to the digestive system. The bitter taste cools everything down, says, okay, digestion, take a chill pill, relax, take it easy. So it kind of like settles that. So that is the fourth taste. So supportive. Otherwise, we're just going to be like eating all day long and just overnourishing ourselves. This really settles that appetite. And it scrapes off. Like also in Ayurveda, we believe that the bitter foods, they actually scrape excesses, right? Because we have all these minute channels in the body and your food is passing through all of it. And green foods have this ability, just how it would scrape slime from your blood. And that's why it's a detox food, like dandelion is a detox food. Similarly, it would scrape off slime in the digestive system. Then comes the fifth taste, which is pungent. Pungent is good spices. So think cinnamon, cloves, black pepper, ginger, all of that. And today, they help the breakdown of foods. Absolutely help the breakdown of foods. Because again, unless it's warm, how can it transform? And spices are very inherently warming. You don't have to heat them up. They're just inherently warming. Like you'll feel it if you make, a hot apple cider or even apple cider with cinnamon in it. It's just so warming inside. So anyways, this taste is great because it breaks down. It helps you to break down your foods. So that sweet foods, that rice that you were eating, that you were so concerned about the glycemic index, but if you've cooked it with a cinnamon stick and a bay leaf and a cardamom pod, and so many traditional cultures did it, and you've paired it, like Asians put vinegar in their rice, and and Indians put ghee in their rice, which is also a fermented food. Then you kind of combined all traditional foods. I've looked at all traditional foods were actually eaten with these 6 tastes. Anyways, so what the other thing that the pungent taste does, and if you're using pungent in the form of good spices, most of these are antioxidants, which means metabolic waste. Anytime you have a chemical reaction, there is waste, especially complex chemical reactions. So metabolic waste that happens as a result of your body metabolizing your foods, instead of creating free radicals, when you pair them with these spices, you kind of neutralize some of those free radicals. Because also, like most of these spices are antioxidants. And then the last taste is astringent foods. Astringent foods like a plantain or maybe sometimes lentils. These are also nutrient rich, and they're also building in a way because the secondary taste for a lot of them is the sweet taste. They're like astringent and sweet. And they kind of help to bind and slow everything down. But there's specific astringent foods. When you eat them, they kind of seal the deal with your digestion. Like in a lot of cultures in South America, they eat plantains at the end of the meal. And that is like a seal the deal. Like you don't want to eat anymore. So signaling the body, everything is ready to go. So, and of course, this was just an introduction, Erin, to these 6 tastes. But they all paired together very scientifically. And whether you're talking about a falafel or you're talking about fried rice with black bean sauce and a side of veggies, or you're talking about a khichdi in India, I've looked at all of these foods and they all are paired with 6 tastes, just like that. All traditional foods have these 6 tastes. And they, like a bowl naturally feels so balanced. If you go and get a bowl, it just feels balanced. a little bit of greens, a little bit of roots, a little bit of veggies, maybe sometimes beans or lentils. You have this condiment, so you have all the six tastes in there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
most of the times, these will have all the amino acids you need as well. Because pure lentils, even for everybody who's plant-based, I'm just talking about that for now,
Yeah.
like your lentils and beans don't have all the amino acids. But when you pair it, for example, with something like a rice, you bring in the other two, three, four amino acids, which you don't receive from those
Yeah.
beans.
That's a good point. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, as soon as you said all traditional foods have this balance of flavors, it's true. Like it's like I can't think of a single thing I've eaten in a traditional sort of menu that doesn't have everything in a bowl. And it speaks to the fact that, and I'm going to make a really general term here. Anciently, we this goes back to the nature, the science of life, but we did not have chronic disease. We did not descend through illness for our whole adult lives into early terrible deaths. Like we're doing a lot better anciently. I do think about the ancestral ancient health thing quite a lot. But the thing is, there's just so many different ancestral and ancient types of diets.
But they're all based on tastes. Like I looked at it, I'm like, what is underlying? So it's okay if one culture ate beans and the other culture ate. But if you look at what was beneath them, they ate similar qualities of food. Like from the Ayurvedic lens, of course, it makes sense that they ate like this. And of course, in Sardinia, they ate like that, makes sense. And then, of course, in Crete, they ate like this, and it makes sense. And of course, in this little district in South America, which is a blue zone, they ate like this. Like they all ate in the same way. Like from the Ayurvedic lens, like, of course, they ate the same way.
Yeah. So I just think this question will come up because currently in the current sort of zeitgeist, there's a strong push for protein, and you mentioned the amino acids.
You're going to say that. You're going to say that.
I did want to know where animal foods fit in, if at all.
Yeah. So I will tell you that in Ayurveda, we do animal foods. I myself am actually plant-based. So not plant-based, sorry, I take it back. I'm vegetarian. I don't do eggs, but I do dairy, I do ghee, I do yogurt, I do all of those things, but I don't eat animal meat. And I never have. And neither do I eat fish or chicken or anything like that. But I'm going to have to be honest that the Ayurvedic texts talk about them. In fact, there is great merit in bone broths.
Oh, yeah.
And it's fascinating, right? Like the world has come back to it. We've come back to discovering the same exact foods. Talks about bone broths, meats in certain circumstances. It's really funny, for like a man's virility, so you talk about virility, and one of the foods is the meat of a rooster, and the rooster is called cock, and like,
Here we
like
are.
for the slang for the male organ. So it's really funny. And I feel like it had something to do with that. I'm sure other cultures also realize that because it's like one of the best foods for, like a man's virility. So it did. There are concerns. So it used meat and animal foods mainly as medicine rather than like pleasure. But there is a talk and mention. I think there are other concerns today, but there's concerns with everything. There are other concerns with how animals are raised and how they're kept and all of those things. But yeah, if you go back from the ancestral lens, it was an acceptable food. And if you go back to the ancient Ayurveda, it's an acceptable food.
Yeah, great. Just because we're on the topic, you are going to be creating a nutrition certification program, Ayurvedic nutrition certification. Can we talk about that a little bit? I know it's like still in the works, but by the time this is published, maybe it's closer. So take us through.
Yeah. And actually like almost down to release, October 22nd, we're actually launching the program.
Great.
So the program, and thank you for asking because I love this. And so the program is actually divided into 3 parts. So in the first part, I actually take people to some of this ancient wisdom, actually go back to the Sanskrit verses. The Sanskrit verses are the original language in which Ayurveda was written. So I actually go back, I translate it for them because I really want to keep the origins, I don't want it to be lost in translation. And even though I translate it, you still have like an original first level translation of these things. So I go back to a lot of various concepts, whether it's the concept of digestion from the texts, or the six tastes, or what we call the potencies of food and the post-digestive impact of food, many ways of looking at these foods. Then I also go into food groups in my program. So we'll say, and Ayurveda talks about it in such detail, like how do you look at grains? How do you look at lentils? How are different type of grains different from each other? So I actually like really drill it down to that. That's the first part. So its first part is going back to the text, looking at that wisdom. How do you eat? When do you eat? And the text had it all. Those ancient texts had all of that. How much water to consume, etc. So I go into all of that. Then in the second part, I bridge the gap between modern nutrition and Ayurveda. But I also go back to bio-individuality. In the second part, I say, okay, this is how different bodies can receive foods differently. And this is how digestion is. We go into some common conditions, like if you have, if this is what you're suffering from, this is how you eat and how do you design it. But also like the idea is to empower the students who take the program to be able to do this on their own. It's a very, like, not to be overly prescriptive for them. Like, I want you to have the power that if you have a client from a certain ethnicity, culture come to you, you don't want to give them brand new foods. But if you understand the principles, you understand how to design their meal plans. So the second part is more practical, how to look at micronutrients and macronutrients, because those questions will come up.
Yeah.
And what are your answers for that? So we really make it practical in the second part of the program. And then the third part of the program is like project work and thesis kind of a thing, where you use, like, you look at, for example, one of the topics is that you look at different cultural diets and you see how they use these same ancient cultures, and you see how did they have these same exact principles of life, and how did it show up for them in what they ate and how they lived. So for example, that's one. And so I will go into everything that has to do around food, from like seasons to common like ailments and conditions to like the ancient texts to reconciling modern nutrition with Ayurveda, all of it. Like I wanted to be I wanted to be a course that I could never find,
Yeah. Well, something that I'm really passionate about and staunch about and talk about all the time on this podcast, so apologies to anybody listening who has to hear me talk about this again, but I always think about scope of practice for health coaches. And so, you have the highest credential in the Ayurvedic space, right? So you're highly credentialed in this.
Credentialed in this, yes, that is correct, yeah.
So can a regular normal health coach like me, can I practice Ayurvedic nutrition? Am I allowed to do that?
So the thing is, there's no laws around Ayurveda in the country. But my goal is for people to do this program, for themselves, but also to help others. Mm-hmm. And the reason, the goal is to make it very easy for everyone to understand and then practice. And that's why the program is goes over a span of 6 months. We have office hours, once a week, where you come in, bring all your questions, bring all your doubts, do the self-study, but also I provide a ton of resources. And I actually want for more and more people, like even if you've never had a nutrition career before, the truth is, Erin, this will give you more than a nutrition degree that, here in the West, because sometimes that can be very prescriptive, or it can be very rich in jargon. And you feel like you know something because you know words that maybe people that you're around don't know these words, but you may not even fully comprehend the meaning of those words. And then, but I think you have to learn to think very holistically, which you do, right? As a nutritionist, which brings in like your logic and the science and the body's intelligence and all of it together. And when you see a rich science like Ayurveda, imagine it talked about every single thing that you could ever question. Water consumption. What happens if you consume water before? What is the right type of water to consume? When is water not, what type of, so it talks about like back in the day, it talks about water that's always flowing. And we know today spring water has more oxygenation than other. So it talks about that stagnant water and what that stagnant water will do to your body. If you're obese, how do you modify your water consumption? It talks about just everything. I mean, it is more detail than you can find, and yet so simply presented than you can find anywhere out there.
I'm absolutely I could ask you 8 million more questions, because even just talking about water that's flowing and how it's more oxygenated, and you can visualize that. Yeah. When water is flowing, it's bubbly and it's moving and it feels more alive.
Yes. Alive is the word that they use. Actually, that is the word that they use.
Okay. Gosh. Oh my goodness. Well, okay, so I want to go back to something that you said earlier because you mentioned when you moved to the US,
Yeah.
you said I wrote it this down as a direct quote. The West is scared of health.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So, growing up, Erin, like you would imagine if I grew up in an Ayurvedic family, maybe my life would be very restrictive. And I'm like, but the truth is, like, it was anything but restrictive, right? Because we knew when to eat, what to eat, how to
Mhm.
combine it, how food combinations work. So sickness was not really our thing in our family. In fact, there's 8 women in the family, not all from the same genetic pools, because like 3 brothers married three women from different parts of the country, and those are like my mom and my 2 aunts. But everybody had like nobody had any hormonal. We didn't know there's such a thing as hormonal conditions.
Oh.
Everybody had natural vaginal births, but even in my generation, right, like me and all my sisters, natural pregnancies, births, like we didn't know. I was young and I didn't know that people could actually miss their periods. I didn't know the idea of irregular periods, right? So basically, when I moved to the US and I saw all of this, the one thing that hit me is that in the West, wellness means fear of disease. And to
Yes.
me, it was the freedom that comes from being healthy.
Mhm. Hmm.
So I always viewed like health as like this freedom, like it's like this ticket to enjoy your life. But more and more, and especially when you live in New York, right? It's about like I'm just scared. I don't want to get sick. Like my dad has this, and my mom has this, and what if this will happen? And I should be exercising because I don't want to get sick, and I should be eating my. So it's more like that.
Yeah. Oh, that really resonates because so when I, for example, enroll a new client into my program, I'm asking them for their sort of desired outcome. What's the dream here? What do you want? What is your life like when you have this? And it's oftentimes it's framed in this sort of avoidant language. I don't want to get fat like my sister did. I don't want to have the same menopause as my mom. My aunt had liver cancer. I don't want to. It is very fear based, very avoidant. Not this approach. Like it's almost as though the people that I work with can't even imagine, almost can't even imagine the freedom of health.
So, so true. And Erin, I just cannot tell you how much I love that you ask them to imagine their dream life. The clients that I work with, they have to make a vision movie. I'm exactly the same. Like, if you are going to live, you're going to get on a reformed nutrition plan,
Mhm.
but do it for like survival or because I have to do this rather than be inspired. I'm like, you want to be inspired by the dream of a different life. Because if you're inspired to do it, then you're not deprived.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just making these shifts and constantly feeling deprived. But that deprivation can be replaced by inspiration. So I love that that's how you start with your clients.
I think that soundbite right there is for all of us working with clients to remember. Deprivation, inspiration, that the distinction between those two, and to operate from a place of inspiration and potentially nurture and guide our clients to think that way. As hard as it might be, as hard as it might be. We didn't have an Ayurvedic upbringing like you did with us in the West here, but we're all ancient humans
We
deep
all
down
are
inside.
so right, so right. We're still connected to the nature, even though we are so far, but we still have a way back.
Yes. Well, Nidhi, I have so many more things I would love to talk to you about, but I feel like this is a really nice little package of information about Ayurvedic nutrition, which I think health coaches listening can put into practice right away. Plus, we're going to link to in the show notes to your nutrition certification, which is coming out in October.
Thank you.
You know, what's interesting is that I trained as a holistic nutritionist 14 years ago. And
Lovely.
I learned this stuff. Because the warming and the cooling and the bitter and the pungent, like it's ringing a bell. I learned it, but because I'm so like, I guess Western and old school fitness nutrition person, I thought, well, okay, all that really matters is your macros and your calories. And I have that sort of very myopic Western fitness oriented perspective. This is all coming back to me now. And maybe just having worked with like thousands of women over the last 12 years, I'm now realizing I do need to come back to this because this is the science of life. I absolutely love that as a definition. That absolutely speaks to me. So you've really, really lit a fire of curiosity under me, and I'm sure under our
Yeah,
listeners too.
so glad. And I want to say that unfortunately, most like you learned it like how many decades ago, but they don't teach you how to bridge the gap. One of the reasons why I have carefully curated my program, because I was frustrated with like people teach you and it seems like jargon, but you don't really understand, why is this applicable? What does it really do? But you need that reconciliation. In fact, like direct Ayurveda does not even talk about the nourishments and the nutrients, which like this is a derivation of that. And
Okay.
so you have to develop that, it's the developing of that eye, which is unfortunately not taught, which is what I intend to teach so you can actually apply this to your clients.
That's awesome. That's really amazing. Okay, let's do the old wrap up. I would love to know where people can find you, get more information about what you do and your upcoming certification course, and also where to get your book and anything else we need to know to track you down.
Thank you so much. So people can find me on my website, Nidhi, Nidhi .me, M-E.
Yeah.
It's also like nidhipandya.com. So my first name, my last name, pandya.com. So they both work. They both take you to the same place. But I'm also on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is my_Ayurvedic_life. So that's my Ayurvedic life with underscores.
Yeah.
And my book is called, and my website will have information to the nutrition program. There's a place where you can kind of put your name down and then we'll reach out to you. And then my book is called Your Body Already Knows. And it's kind of the goal of the book is to bring you back to that wisdom that we talked about, that the deer have and animals and other species have, not through guesswork, through a framework.
Yes. Amazing. I'm so excited to get the book, to put my name on the list for the certification. I'm in. I'm in because this makes absolute sense. I feel this down into my toes. It's an amazing conversation, Nidhi, and you did such an amazing job teaching it in such a gettable way for us. So I really appreciate this conversation.
Thanks, Erin. Thank you so much.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.